Eyeing a space hotline with China. Never seen this before. This in an effort to avoid potential crises as the rivalry to become dominant in space intensifies. Now, House China Committee Chief Mike Gallagher argues the U.S. is entering a new Cold War, this time with China. He says Republican candidates must take a stronger stance against the CCP. Mike Gallagher is with me now, the Republican out of Wisconsin. Nice to see you again. Thanks for being here. First on this hotline that may be established by way of Tokyo. What is changing in space that would make this necessary, sir?
Well, I think the concern is twofold. One, we might surrender our advantage in commercial space, and we do have a historic advantage right now. But given the level of investment by the Chinese Communist Party, they're set to overtake us in commercial space within the next 2 years if we continue to have a lackadaisical approach to this. The second thing is, without any really established rules of the road in space, you could see the weaponization of space. And I think we should just assume that the Chinese Communist Party would seek to weaponize satellites, even those that they claim are for purely civilian purposes. So in theory, there's nothing wrong with setting up a crisis communication hotline. We've tried to do it on the conventional military side. The problem is the Chinese have refused. They refused when the Trump administration asked, and they've been refusing when the Biden administration have asked. So who's going to pick up the phone when we keep trying to call the CCP?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Do you think China's changed their mind on that or not?
Well, we've had 4 cabinet-level secretaries from the Biden administration go to Beijing in an effort to beg them to establish such a hotline. And it seems that they haven't budged. They've committed to certain working groups, but we have well-established history where the Chinese use this sort of working group idea to convince us to delay defensive action. And that's the risk. The risk isn't talking per se. It's stopping any defensive action that we need to take in order just to sit down at the table and talk. And I fear this renewed engagement push has really undermined the urgency that we need to start defending ourselves from growing economic, cyber, and military aggression from the Chinese Communist Party.
So maybe this comes up tomorrow night at the second debate in Simi Valley. You're actually encouraging Republicans to talk about the CCP in Beijing. In which way?
Well, I think the most important thing to do, particularly given that it's at the Reagan Library, is to channel Reagan and just talk about the scale of the threat, the nature of the threat we face in terms of this Marxist-Leninist regime that is trying to undermine American global leadership, to communicate to the American people that this isn't just an obscure threat in the first island chain. It's a threat to American sovereignty. And then I would also argue to communicate to the American people a sense of optimism, just like Reagan, a sense that we are the good guys and we deserve to win this new Cold War.
I started out by talking about this drone war as well, and I just want to get your comment on this. Because Russia was well behind Ukraine when the war broke out, and Russia has caught up. I don't know how they did it, but maybe they're using parts and suppliers from other countries around the world in all likelihood. But the Pentagon is trying to develop thousands and thousands of them and do it quickly. And there are problems out there. And Boeing's blaming a few people. There's supply chain issues. Tell us why this issue could be so important to our own national security.
Because in order to defend Taiwan, we are going to need many more attritable autonomous systems like drones. However, the problem is what the crisis in Ukraine has revealed is that our munitions industrial base is incredibly fragile, it's incredibly weak, and we have yet to rebuild it. In fact, Bill, at the end of this week, if we don't get our act together, $11 billion in previously appropriated defense funds is going to expire. That's money that we could use to build drones like this. And better yet, rather than a fancy new program with a new acronym like the Replicator program, we can replicate existing systems that have already been proven, provided we have the sustained, predictable, multi-year funding. But because of our budget dysfunction and because, quite frankly, a lack of engagement from the Secretary of Defense himself, we are at risk of squandering a phenomenal opportunity we have right now to rebuild our munitions industrial base.
You know how quickly technology is changing. We got a story coming up in a moment here about AI, and it's moving at light speed. And if we don't move with it, China and Russia and others are going to fly right by. Mike Gallagher, thank you for your commentary today. We'll speak again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.